Hello, Internet, and thank you for watching my first episode, which I am entitling The Death in Coming Out Trans. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to refer to what has happened to me in my coming out. I'm going to try and only speak from my experience and not talk about anyone else's transition experience aside from my own. I recently had a long and difficult discussion with several of my friends who have been very supportive and just amazing people about my whole transition, but about how much of a shock this was for them and how difficult it was for them that on the one hand they want to be supportive and they're glad that I'm happy and they're glad that I'm getting to be who I've always wanted to be, but on the other hand they in a very real way lost who I was. They lost the person that they first met, that they came to know and love and care about. And to act like that loss is not significant is unfair, and I would even go as far to say unethical. And that's what I mean by the death in coming out trans. For everyone else, there's almost a death of the person whom, to the trans person, you never were. As for me, losing who I was, I didn't lose anything. That was the thing that always felt false to me. Who I am now is who I always saw myself as. So there was no loss for me. It was an unburdening. It was not something that was taken away. But for everyone else, as much as they have been amazing and lovely and supportive people, in a very real way, something was taken away from them. This man, this boy, that they knew, that they grew up with, or grew to love, or grew to know, is gone and isn't coming back. And to act as though that can just be dismissed, as though, well, you just have to accept me as I am, and if you don't, well, you're the jerk. I mean, that's just as bad as them saying, well, I don't want to accept you now that I know you're trans, and now that you want to live as a woman. It's the same, the way I see it. And while the end result for the people who know the trans individual should be and has to be acceptance, to act as though the shock of the coming out, the shock of that loss of this person that they used to know is nothing and something that they should just get over, it's not okay. And I feel like that's something that doesn't get talked a lot about with trans people. I have brought this idea up to a few other trans people that I know, and they've all kind of had the response of, well, do you think you're that different of a person? Do you really think you have changed that much? And that's kind of sidestepping the issue. The issue isn't whether or not I think I'm that different, or whether it's even provable that I'm that different. It's ignoring real emotions and real feelings that another human being is having. And if we want people to accept us and how we've always seen ourselves and how we've always felt on the inside, we have to allow people to express themselves. And if the knee-jerk reaction of someone coming out trans is for them to feel kind of awkward or maybe even a little bit betrayed, maybe all they need is to be able to express that. Now, this is sort of a caveat section. I will admit that I had a pretty good coming out. I, for the most part, got to do it very much on my own terms. I did not have much, if any, pushback. I, in fact, seemingly gained friends out of it rather than losing any of them. And no one in my family was anything but beautiful and amazing and supportive about the entire thing. And I can't thank them enough for that. But several of my friends, after having many long discussions with them, did admit that it was a shock, and that to kind of just be expected to smile and nod and clap along with the crowd and just act like nothing was wrong, act like they couldn't say anything, even to just say, I'm happy for you, I'm proud of you, but this is kind of messed up. Even just feeling like they weren't allowed to say that, even when they were just coming to terms with what was a dramatic change for them. It was unfair of me. And it's something that I just felt the need to talk about. I've wanted to do this video vlog thing for a long time, and this is the first topic that I thought of that really grabbed me, mostly because, well, one, it was so close to my heart and close to my friends, but also because it's something that I haven't heard being talked about. The discussion in coming out is so focused on acceptance that it almost enter an acceptance vacuum where nothing else can survive, where there is no room, no allowance for anyone to just be like, hey, I'm happy for you, but I'm kind of uncomfortable. And that's a thing that should be discussed. And as I said, the end goal should be and has to be acceptance. But if somebody just wants to express that they are shocked, that they need a little bit of time to adjust to this death of a person whom they grew to know and love, we as trans individuals have to allow that conversation. We as trans individuals have to allow that expression. Because if the tables were flipped, and I know for many they are, where they were not accepting of us being who we want to be, of us coming out and being the person who we've always felt and always seen ourselves as, you can imagine the hurt that is. And for many of you, I understand that is all too real. But they feel similarly. And to act as though those emotions are invalid or can be cast aside is wrong. I guess the basic idea of what I'm saying is, for anyone to come out trans, there needs to be empathy on both sides. There needs to be empathy from the people who the person coming out to. There needs to be empathy from the people to whom the trans person is coming out, in that they need to understand that, it's a very difficult thing. There's a lot of thought and hurt that goes into not being openly trans when you feel trans on the inside. But at the same time, there has to be understanding and empathy from the trans person that it's not the same for everyone else. For everyone else, there's a lot of things to be worried about. One thing that a friend expressed to me when I started my hormones while I was having these conversations was they were really afraid that whoever I was going to be once I started on hormones, they weren't going to like. Which, while a lot of trans people who I've talked to about that have the kind of attitude of, oh, well, that's ridiculous, that's foolishness, why would they think that, that's just hateful. But it is valid. It's not a usual thing, and there is a personality shift. I definitely have noticed it in myself, and other people have noticed it. Mostly positive. Mostly people have said that I seem happier, which I definitely feel happier and unburdened. But it is different. And we can't just stand there and stonewall anyone that feels awkward or feels that there is some sort of loss on their side of the equation. Hopefully in the future, with transgenderism being more recognized, more widely accepted, and people being recognized as trans and coming out earlier and earlier in life, this issue will fade into the background and become a complete non-issue. But for the time being, and even in the future, there will be people that aren't able to come out immediately and are not able to be themselves until their late 20s, like myself. We need to understand that we're not the only ones in the boat, and that if somebody is rocking the boat, it doesn't necessarily mean they're trying to sink it. It might just mean that they want someone to pay attention to them and listen to how they feel. Communication is the biggest key and the only way that we will ever hope to come to an empathetic conclusion. Thank you for watching, and I hope to have more videos soon. See you later.